There is definitely a refugee problem in the Middle East, and what is the proper response from Canada? Is it simply to bring over as many people as possible? I was reading you the story of the Melkite Syrian Archbishop, Catholic Archbishop in Aleppo, saying, you know what, we want to stay home. Help people stay home. Is that feasible for Christians? Some are saying yes, some are saying no. But right now, Canada is refusing to join with the United States, the European Union, and the UK, as well as the Vatican, I might add, in calling what's happening a genocide. Well, today on Parliament Hill, both Majed Shafie and Dalal Abdallah came forward and said, Canada needs to act. They both join me in studio now. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
What was the response like on that? Were you mostly just speaking with journalists at the Charles Lynch Room, or did you go into meetings with politicians as well?
We met with Ms. Rona Ambrose this morning, and definitely we thanked her for the motion that she is presenting next week, or maybe 10 days from now, with regard considering what's happening to the Yazidis and the Christians and the other minorities in Iraq and Syria as a genocide. We are also hoping to be able, through the media, to reach to the Prime Minister and the new government that we are having right now. Is definitely surprising to me that I actually have to be here in Ottawa advocating on this issue. Mm-hmm. It's a completely shocking, not just to me, shocking to the victims in Iraq, shocking to everybody that from the minority that know that Canada now doesn't even want to recognize it as a genocide or playing political games with it.
There's definitely political games going on. Now, Majed, I know your story, we've talked about it on air before. Mm-hmm. From Egypt, converted to Christianity, faced persecution for that. Dalal, your story, you're a Yazidi human rights activist.
Correct.
Here in Canada.
Yes.
Did you come from Syria? Did you come from Iraq? Where?
I lived in Iraq, and during the Gulf War, my parents had to make split-second decisions where we had to leave behind some of my siblings in Iraq that are currently there. We walked over to Syria to same reason, to save our lives. And
were these older siblings that were able to look after themselves, or
at that time there were some over 18 and younger.
Okay.
They just weren't home at that time, and we just could not wait.
Wow.
Like I said,
so that fast of leave
correct.
Now or we're in trouble.
Correct. My dad had to make that decision to save as many lives as he could. He knew that we were in danger, and we walked over to Syria. I was little, but I still felt the pain and struggle around me as a child. And we stayed in Syrian camps for 8 years until we got sponsored by the Canadian government. And those 8 years, it was very hard. I did not even have shoes on my feet. I was barefoot for most of the time just because of the conditions we were in. We just had water and food to eat, just enough for us to eat to be able to survive day by day. There was not much opportunity living in a world like Middle East. I was very much, I didn't fit in. I didn't have any rights. I was...
Where was the camp that you were in?
It was near Hasaka. And
I don't know that place. So is that...
It's a place in Syria.
It's a place in northern Syria, or...?
Yes, it's right beside the border of Iraq.
Okay.
And we stayed there for 8 years. It was a hard life. It was a struggle. Our surroundings weren't very supportive. And and
now places like that are producing refugees instead of accepting them, however inhospitably.
Yes.
They accepted you.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Yazidis before I ask more, because we talk about the Yazidis. This is a new thing for people to talk about in Canada. Yazidis being persecuted. Who are the Yazidis? What are the Yazidis?
Yazidis are from northern Iraq. They've went through 74 genocides. We are very peaceful minorities. We are very loving.
Ethnic group, religious group, or both?
Both.
Both, okay.
And we have been struggling in the Middle East. Like I said, we've been through 74 genocides, and and it's continuing on. I mean, it's not stopping, and our population is becoming less and less. And I think it would be a great time for Canada to recognize this as a genocide. It is the definition of genocide itself. It speaks to me to Yazidis. They have nobody. Our only hope is these countries that are willing to help. So I think it would be. Canada's an amazing country, and I know that when something happens, we are the ones that steps up. And I don't know why it's taken us so long to step up in this situation.
Do you think, and I open this to either one of you, do you think it's because once you actually declare genocide, that's a legal term?
More to do.
There is a requirement to act if you call it a genocide. There is not just a moral, but a legal requirement to intervene to try and stop it.
Actually, legally, you're not required to act on it. Actually, legally, you will be surprised.
Okay.
But illegally, because we don't have a relationship with ISIS as a state or as a group, and we don't have a trade, we don't have, you know what I mean, like we don't have economic relationships, or we don't have an embassies with them or anything like that.
So if this were, just for talking's sake, the United States carrying out a genocide, and we declared it a genocide, we would have to take diplomatic or trade steps at a minimum.
That's correct. So because there is no legal relationship between us and them, there is no legal requires from us to move. That's legally.
Okay.
Now, morality, wise, we have to do more. And I think this government, because they want to do less than more. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to Iraq, especially to Iraq, when you have a prime minister that indicated that we are not in a war with ISIS, well, with my all due respect, ISIS is in a war with you. So you like it or you don't, you say whatever you want, man. But we had attacks here in Ottawa. We had attacks in Brussels, in Paris.
Saint-Jean, south of Montreal.
We had attacks in with our 200 soldiers that they are there in Kurdistan, get fired at all time. So you can say whatever you want. On the website of ISIS, they declared war in Canada. So if you don't want to declare war on them, it's up to you. But it's really silly.
They're coming either way.
Yes, but we present proposal to this government to bring 400 to 500 Yazidi girls, and until now we didn't hear from them. So we wonder why we can have 25,000 refugees. Go ahead.
How would you get them out? Because I mentioned this on air earlier. I know that you've done rescues before.
Yes.
I know you've gone into dangerous places on your own with others. A while ago we were talking about rescuing a young Pakistani girl that was going to be killed.
That's correct.
And you got her out and got her to Canada. Yes. How do you go to where ISIS controlled territories, and your motion is actually to bring 400 former ISIS sex slaves to Canada as refugees? Have they let them go? Or?
We already did. We already went inside. We bought them. There is a better term to put it. We bought them in a way or another. Sadly, because this interview will be on air, so I need to be careful about the information that I will be releasing to the public. But we bought them, and they already, all of them in Kurdistan right now. It's just a matter of the Canadian government to bring them here and to allow them to the country.
So essentially they're done with them as sex slaves. They're selling them on a slave market.
They've been always selling them, and they've been going from one owner to another. I met a 9-year-old Yazidi girl that they used to rape her 20 times a day. 20 times a day, 9 years old. I wish the people that they are listening to us right now, if you have a daughter, look at her, and if the same age, I want you to imagine that this is what's happening to the Yazidi girls right now. But we have to do more, and I know that we can do more, and I know that this government can do more. It's just a matter of a public demand. This government will listen to what is popular, not necessarily to what is right. So if more people listening to us contact the Prime Minister office, contact your MP, demanding that our proposer to bring 400 Yazidi girls as a first step here to Canada as a refugee, I think the government will listen.
They're in Kurdistan then?
Correct.
We've been bringing people from camps in Turkey, in Lebanon, in Jordan. Are we able to go to Kurdistan and get them? I'm just trying to think. It's a heart-wrenching story. I think that you are both proposing the right thing. But this is what a bureaucrat will ask. Well, we're not there. We don't have an office. So how do we get them?
The problem that Kurdistan is still considered part of Iraq. To be legally defined as a refugee, you have to leave your country of origin and live in another country. So as long as the Yazidis lives in Kurdistan, which is considered still part of Iraq, they don't consider them as refugees. Now, we are in air, so I will use my language carefully. But this is nonsense. I want to use way stronger word than nonsense, but I can tell you that this is absolutely nonsense. If there is a political will, we can go to the camps in Kurdistan and we can bring these girls. The legal terms doesn't matter. Human being matter. Human suffer matter, not the legal terms.
All right. I'm Brian Lilley in for Rob Snow, speaking with Majed Shafie and Dalal Abdallah. We'll be back in moments with more, but I don't know about you, but that revelation just moments ago on what some of these sex slaves have been through and the attempts to bring them to Canada, I feel like I've just been punched in the gut. Brian Lilley in for Rob Snow, taking you up to the top of the hour and having a gut-wrenching conversation with Dalal Abdallah, Yazidi human rights activist, and Majed Shafie with One Free World International, an organization that if you haven't supported yet, the question is why? Because they are doing the heavy lifting. And you won't take the credit, Majed, so let me give it to you. You're doing the heavy lifting here in bringing this issue up and going and buying 400 women. You bought them off of, I won't ask how, don't want to, security issues, but essentially you bought the freedom of these women off of ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
So now the question is getting them to Canada, and they're in a refugee camp in Kurdistan. And Dalal, you spent 8 years in a refugee camp of sorts in Syria. So these women have escaped the horrors that they were going through. But from your experience, I'm guessing you would say they're probably not living the life of luxury right now.
Oh, of course not. It's anything but luxury. These girls are coming to Kurdistan being homeless. Their families coming to members of families, and some coming to nothing. All the members of the families are in ISIS territories. And it's a hard life. It's not easy for a woman in the Middle East. Definitely wasn't for me. And I can only feel my sisters. I call them my sisters because each one of them are like my sister. And this is why I'm a voice for them. I'm not going to stop being a voice for them because I feel their pain. They are coming back to nothing. They have no resources whatsoever. Some of them have little to nothing. Like I said, some of them are coming back to no family members. There's no such things as support. They're just living homeless in Kurdistan, and this is not right. This is not how we treat our girls.
May I make a suggestion that if you're able to convince the Canadian government to accept these women as refugees, that they not come as government-sponsored refugees, because you're describing that they're alone, that they need support. That I think is the perfect place for the extra support that comes from privately sponsored refugees. And having watched both, having watched my own parish sponsor a refugee family, and the difference between a whole community around a family, around a person, and saying, hey, what can we do for you, versus a bureaucrat. These women are going to need so much more help.
And I mean, when I came here, I needed so much help as well. I went through a lot of traumatic events that happened. And look at me. I'm a Canadian. I'm a proud Canadian citizen. I'm standing here and being a voice for the voiceless. And I contribute to my community a lot. And I love Canada. And there's no other place I would rather call home. And I needed all those services. And I got those from the Canadian government when I arrived in Canada. And I'm rising. I'm being the best I can. And I'm helping out my sisters. So, I mean.
Good. How can people help? I'm assuming that you guys could use donations to help in this type of process. Yeah. How can they do that?
The most important, even than donation of all was, we're thankful for that, but even more important than donation, we need you to get on the phone, call your prime minister, call your MP, call the leaders of the opposition, call the media, make it a public issue, bring it to the attention. Answering your point is a private sponsors, but we need the government to do the heavy lifting.
To do the approval.
To do the approval, we need them to do the heavy lifting. Private sponsors is not cheap. We need the government to be able to help us with the financial part. They brought 25,000 refugees. None of them was from the minorities. I think this is a shame, and I think this is need to change right away.
All right. So the website is onefreeworldinternational.org. If I click on that, oh, there we go. There's a picture. There's a picture of Dalal with Rana Ambrose today and a Donate Now button. So people will be able to go on and they will be able to help. Just quickly, how much funding do you guys need to help bring these people if you get the approval?
Right now, our organization focusing on rescuing these Yazidi girls from ISIS territory. Mm-hmm. And as I said, we was able to rescue 300 to 400 of them. There is 3,400 other Yazidi girls still in ISIS territory. So my main focus, or the main focus of One Free World International, is how to rescue these girls from ISIS territory. Now, we are trying to get the Canadian government help to bring these Yazidi girls here to Canada, where they can start a new life and they can live in peace finally.
All right. Majed, Dalal, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.